I greet you in the name of our Redeemer, the one who has loved us and redeemed us, and he calls us, each of you, by name. That's what God does. He calls you. He is calling you. And because he says that, and by faith, we believe that. I'm excited this morning to continue the sermon series from the book of Ruth. The series I've entitled Faithful to a Providential God. And this morning, again, we are going to see the providence of God. God's working when it feels like he is absent. We have all experienced that. Every one of us who believe in God have experienced his silence, where we've gone, God, I don't even know if you're real. And yet, throughout the book of Ruth, we see that tragedy, time and again, sets the stage for his glory, for his triumph. The first message from Ruth chapter 1, as you know, I had intended to sort of be talking about the faithfulness of Ruth on Mother's Day, and in the weeks leading up to that, I couldn't figure out how to do this in one message, and so here I am on message 3. The first from Ruth 1 was committed to providence. Ruth 2, in the hands of mercy. And if you have your Bibles, I invite you to turn to the book of Ruth. Just to give you a quick overview of chapter 2, in the hands of mercy. We Bible readers are probably aware that Ruth is with her mother-in-law Naomi. Both of them are widows, and she is a Moabite, and she is following the harvesters in the fields, picking up the grain that they are leaving behind, trying to find enough to stay alive. They are living in poverty. You will remember that probably the most desolate situation for any person in this time period was to be a widow. The provision was gone. And so in Ruth chapter 2, she's working in the field, and she meets this man Boaz, a man of standing, he's described. And Boaz talks with her, and he invites her to eat with him when the harvesters get together at the tent for lunch. And they have roasted barley, and I think, like I said, this was the first date for Boaz and Ruth. But he didn't ask her out. Afterwards, she went back to the field, but he did tell her, stay in my field. And you might remember that sort of at the end of the last sermon, I encouraged us to stay in the field. If you've never been in the field, in God's field yet, consider it. Even those of us who have worked in the field and are in the field, we tend to be distracted by the things that are not. We look at other fields and we say, man, that looks so much better. We get distracted regularly, and my encouragement to us is stay in the field. And that's what Boaz told Ruth. And when she got back to her mother-in-law Naomi, Naomi was just, her jaw hit the ground. She couldn't believe the goodness that had come to this Moabite. Remember, the Moabites were the hated. They were the lowest on the lowest rung on the social ladder. And Ruth is a Moabite, and she's coming back carrying this bag of barley that Boaz sent with her, way more than even a laborer would have gotten. And Naomi says, this is going to be good for you, Ruth, my daughter. But the most anticlimactic ending to that chapter, the last verses. So Ruth stayed in the fields of Boaz, and we just feel this building. This whole story is one of tension, and one that I think that we can identify with many of the feelings. And she stayed in the fields of Boaz, and she gleaned barley. And then the last verse is this. When the harvest was finished, she lived with her mother-in-law. how anticlimactic. All of this throughout the chapter of Boaz, caring for her. And then she lives with her mother. And so this is where we're picking up today, at Ruth chapter 3. And when I first read this, I went, I have no idea how to preach a message from Ruth 3. It's entitled, Of Noble Character. And like I said before, it is my desire that in this in this message, in this chapter, that each of us would catch a glimpse of the depth of the love of God. We hear this all the time. Well, God is love. He is. But do we consider the depth of that love? Do we consider that no matter what you have done, no matter what I have done, His love is deeper, that He is ridiculously patient? If you are a Christian, I trust that this morning you will be encouraged in a deeper admiration for this patient love of God. If you are not a Christian, I hope that this morning you will be caused to consider the depth of the love that God has for you. Like I've done in the previous two sermons, I'm going to go through this chapter verse by verse, sort of explaining what is happening, giving a narrative, and then at the end of the passage, I'll have a couple applications or points that I'll draw from it. The entire chapter 3 takes place under the cloak of darkness. It takes place between evening and morning. So, if you wish to follow in your Bibles, you may. I'm going to be reading from the NIV this morning, and we'll have it on the wall behind me as well. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, so they are living together, and she said, my daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. You see, you need to remember that Israel is living in a time period of the judges right now. God had designed, had a system in place to care for widows. It was the clan would look after, remember perhaps that they lived in clans and the clan would look after widows. And so, however, they were living in the time period of the judges, and the last verse in the book of Judges before Ruth is literally everyone did as they saw fit in their own eyes. And so following God's design was not very common. Most people were not following his design. And so Naomi is simply saying, we need to find a place of provision for you. And so throughout this chapter, that's what's going to be going on. Where you will be safe, where you will be protected. Women were not protected well at that time, especially foreigners. A Moabite lady would have been abused and disregarded in every way. And so Naomi is caring for her. Now Boaz, verse 2, Naomi is saying, now Boaz, with whose women you have worked as a relative of ours, and tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. So they were harvesting barley, and so winnowing was literally, often it took place outside. This was not in a building. We might think that because it says on the threshing floor, it was often perhaps tucked in behind a hill, or they would level out an area of ground to create a floor where they would beat the barley, get it out of and then in the evening, when the cool winds or breezes would blow, they'd take their fork and throw the barley into the air, and the chaff would blow aside, and the barley would fall down onto the floor. And so Naomi she is a scheming lady right now, and she says, Boaz, this guy, you were with him earlier, is winnowing at the threshing floor. What she says next gets downright sketchy. And you have to remember, even the reputation that Moabite women had. One of the reasons that the curse was that God was against the Moabites, there were a few, but they had seduced the Israelite men, in fact, causing God's judgment to come down. They were known to pursue Israelite men, causing God's judgment to come on them. And one day, maybe not in one day, but it caused the death of 24,000 Jews. This seduction. And so here is Naomi, and she says, wash yourself, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothing. Then go down to the threshing floor, and don't let him know that you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. Now, washing yourself and putting on perfume this is far more than just clean yourself up so that you don't stink. This is the same thing that in 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 20, King David did when he was begging God for 7 days that his son would live. And when his little baby boy died, it says he got up in verse 20. David got up, he washed himself and lotioned his body or put oils on his body. And what this signifies is a transition it signifies moving from a time of mourning to moving on. Remember that Naomi and Ruth have been mourning. They have lived in bitterness and in hard things. And so she is actually saying, look, we are moving on. We're not staying in this place of bitterness. And so wash yourself. Put perfume on your body. Put on good clothing, because our day of mourning is behind us now. Verse 4. And when he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go. Uncover his feet, lie down, and he will tell you what to do. Starting to understand why I wasn't sure how to preach on this one. What is Naomi telling her daughter-in-law to do? Verse 4 is filled with sexual undertones. She is especially uncover his feet and lie down by his feet. A Moabite woman, one with this reputation, sneaking to the threshing room floor. What is going on? An Israelite man. What's going on here? I love her response in verse 5, where Ruth answers, I will do whatever you tell me. Now, let me be clear, throughout this passage and in the entire story of Ruth, there is not once any indication whatsoever that something immoral took place. We can only guess at some of the motives, and yet when we see the entire picture, perhaps Naomi was not outside of what God's design was or plan. But this is just tension filled again. And the feelings that are going to be aroused, this just feels completely ungodly. Except for Ruth's response to a godly lady. She says, whatever you say, Naomi, I trust you. And I know that you have only ever had the best intent in mind for me. I know that this would be Ruth saying, Naomi, I know that You have protected me. You have provided for me. You have gone to bat for me. And while this does not make sense to me, I'm going to do whatever you say. And that's what she did. Let's go on. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking, he was in good spirits. He went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. And so here is Ruth. Can you imagine what is happening? I mean, we can't write a story like this. She is hiding in the darkness. It is dark, and it's outside. And she is hiding, and she's watching this man Boaz, and he's with the other people. And then he walks around the grain pile. That's not coincidence. Throughout this book, God is working providentially. That he did not just recline where the others were. Ruth had no way of knowing that he would go to a secluded place. But imagine being in Ruth's situation. She's watching it, and she has no idea. She knows what she is doing is very risky. Going to this man when he's alone at night. She's a Moabite. Most people are not following God's design. So so he was in good spirits. Now, if we consider the character of Boaz, I don't believe this means that he was drunk. He may have had some drinks, but that because had he been drunk, I don't think he would have acted like he did in the next scene. But he says, I'm done. He was done eating, and he goes around and lies down. And Ruth quietly approaches him, uncovers his feet, and lies at his feet. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. Now imagine being in Boaz's situation. First of all, there were no women at the threshing floor. They helped, in the field in the evening. This was a place for men. I love his question. How do you think he asked that? Who are you? Was there this, maybe there was this state of shock. Who are you? Maybe he whispered it. Who are you? We don't know. But we know that why did he wake up? I can about imagine it was the cool breeze on his legs. I think, anyway, so here we are, and Ruth replies, she answers his question. I am Ruth. No, I am your servant, Ruth. You might remember that in chapter 2, verse 13, in the field, when he came over and he had asked his foreman, he had said, whose lady is that? Not who is that lady. He just assumed that she belonged to someone. Whose lady is that? And she describes herself as a servant in verse 13. Yes. She says that she is a Moabite, and Boaz says to her, I have heard of the kindness that you've shown to Naomi. May God continue to give you kindness as you rest under his wings. This is powerful. We'll come back to that verse, actually. But then she says, may I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord? You have given me comfort and have spoken kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing as even one of your servant girls. In that verse there, she's calling herself a slave. She says, I'm your slave. Although I don't have the standing, I'm a Moabite. I recognize that I have no social standing. I am the very lowest possible rung in this on the social ladder. And here she calls herself a servant again. I am your servant, Ruth. This does not mean slave in this context. The Hebrew word would have been more, I am here to serve you, not as a low state. I am here to serve you. Then she goes beyond what Naomi had said, and I don't know why. She says, spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. Now, this feels like a sexual pursuit. Sharing the blanket is for marriage. And in case, so maybe this is what Boaz should have been told. In case you're not getting it, I want you to pursue me in marriage. Because you are my hope. You are the only person in the land of Bethlehem that has given any attention to me besides Naomi is you. You are the only one who will be able to provide for me. I mean, this is just ramping up. And by the way, the word garment here is the same word in Hebrew that is used in chapter 2 where Boaz says this, may the Lord repay you for what you have done to Naomi. May you be richly rewarded by the God of Israel, under whose wings, the word wings in Hebrew is the same Hebrew word that is used as garment here. Now, what's the significance of that? This word wings, under the wings of God, where Boaz says, I want you to find refuge under the wings of God. And now Ruth is saying, you are the means, just like this blanket right here that I want to cover up with. You are the means to provide that blessing that you gave to me in the field. Boaz, it's your turn. I need protection. I need provision. Wrap this blanket around me. You know that the men in the fields are mean. You know that I have no protection out there. What Ruth is doing is risky. This is high risk. This is a time period where sexual immorality is absolutely rampant in Israel. This is especially risky for a Moabitess to be doing this, where everyone is doing what they see as right in their own eyes. But Ruth is forward. This is very forward, saying, Boaz, I need your protection. Let's go on. What is going to be his response? Is he going to take advantage of her? Verse 10. Ruth, the Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater. Boaz is described as a man of standing, and he is stunned. He says, this kindness is greater than that which you have shown me earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. That is a tremendous blessing, a tremendous response. This kindness, he's saying, Ruth, I am going to provide for you. I'm going to make sure you are protected. This is a selfless love you're going to see from Boaz. I'm going to make sure, Ruth, that you are safe. He is affectionate in his response. This kindness is greater, he says, than that which you have showed earlier. He's referring actually to the kindness that she showed to Naomi. When Naomi is trying to dissuade her from coming to Bethlehem, she's saying, stay in Moab. This is going to be far better for you. You know, you're in Moab, you're going to actually, someone else will marry you. And you're going to be provided for, and you won't be hungry, and you won't be in want. Stay there. And Ruth, you know those majestic verses where she says, where you go, Naomi, I will go. Where you live, I'm going to live. Your God is going to become my God. Your people are going to be my people. Where you're buried, Naomi, I'm going to get buried there. And Boaz knows this, and he says, this kindness that you are showing to me is greater than the kindness that you showed to Naomi. He said, you have shown yourself a noble character. This phrase is also found in, you know it, in Proverbs chapter 31. A woman of noble character, who can find? You see, Boaz is stunned that this young woman, he's old, that this young woman is pursuing him. Everything is going well. Boaz has just given this commitment. I'm going to care for you. Everything's going just really well for Ruth. She is finding favor in the eyes of Boaz. You can almost hear the wedding bells. And then there's verse 12. Although it is true that I'm a guardian redeemer, let me explain what that means. A guardian redeemer is, so Boaz was living according to the plan that God had for the Hebrew people. If someone's spouse, if there was a widow, then someone in the clan, the next in line, in fact, it would normally be the brother of her husband. The brother of her husband would look after and make sure that the widow is provided for. If there is no brother, it goes to the next line. And that's what we call the guardian redeemer, looking out for, making sure that she is provided for. And he says this, it is true that I am a guardian redeemer of the family, but there is another who is more closely related than I. Boom. Stay here for the night. And in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until morning. Boaz is committed to God. He is a man of noble character. There are two people right here. I wonder what it would have been like if I was there. You know, I would be concerned that I would not have been noble like Boaz. Very few people would have been. Here's an old man, a young woman, asking him to marry her. Let's go on. I don't imagine there was much that Ruth slept. What a disappointing response from Boaz. She lay at his feet until morning. I'm sure she's, staring up at the stars and wondering the next day she's going to find out who would be her husband. Is it going to be Boaz, this man that she really did respect, or is it going to be this other guy that she's never yet met? Can you imagine? Verse 14, so she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And then he said, let's just keep this between the two of us. Don't tell anyone that you came to the threshing floor. Verse 15, and then he says this, bring me your shawl you are wearing and hold it out. And when he did that, he pours 6 measures of barley into her shawl. And then he lifted that shawl and placed it on her. She went back to her town. It was, people have, nobody knows how much 6 measures was. But by every indication, it was a generous amount, far more than probably more than any laborer would have gotten for a season of work. I mean, they were lucky to get 1 or 2 pounds daily. And 6 measures. It was the heavy bundle. You know that Ruth was a strong lady. We remember that from last time. She carried 50 pounds back to her mother-in-law. And they expect this to be more. And when Ruth came to her mother-in-law, I'm guessing Ruth wasn't the only one who didn't sleep that night. Can you imagine Naomi? She just set up this thing. She must have been pacing the floor. I'm guessing getting up, looking out the door every once in a while to see if Ruth is coming back early. I mean, she has much tension in going on also. And she says, when she sees her in the morning, she says, how did it go, my daughter? And Ruth tells her everything. And then she added this. This wasn't mentioned earlier. She said, he gave me these 6 measures of barley and said, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Don't go back to Naomi without anything. Empty. Have we heard the word empty before in this book? At the end of chapter 1, Naomi, when she and Ruth came back to Bethlehem, and the ladies came out and greeted them, and they said, is this Naomi? And she said, don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara. Mara meaning bitterness. And Naomi says, I went away full and I came back empty. I have nothing. When we left, I had everything I needed and now it is gone. Have you been there? Have you ever had that feeling of being empty, of being alone? What Naomi didn't realize is standing right there with her. When she's telling the people, I am empty, I have nothing. Standing next to her was the Moabite lady who would become the means that God would use, providentially, God would use to provide her every need. You see, we do not see the way God works. For Naomi, Ruth was this Moabite lady, an outcast that had committed herself to her. For God, he was going to provide and protect Naomi through that means. Little does she see his plan. And you will remember from David Platt what he said, in his sovereign design, God ordains tragedy or disappointment to set the stage for his glory or triumph. Seldom is God's triumph shown in our good, in our victory. Many times, time and again, it is going through the difficult thing where God becomes triumphant and is glorified. Let's go on in the last verse now. Naomi says, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. This is the last time that we will hear from either Ruth or Naomi in the book of Ruth. They will not speak again. The curtain here closes with 2 ladies sitting in a room, sitting in a house, wonder who's going to marry Ruth. waiting. Naomi says, wait. So many times that is the answer for us as well. Wait. This situation is now out of their hands. It really is in the hands of Yahweh. Who is Yahweh? The word kindness I mentioned, it came up 3 times in these first 3 chapters. In chapter 3, verse 20, it says, Naomi says, he has not shown... Nope, that's chapter 2. Chapter 2:20. All right. And Ruth 3:10, the Lord bless you, my daughter, Boaz says, this kindness is greater. In chapter 3, verse 20, the Lord bless him, she says about Boaz, he has not stopped showing kindness. And in chapter 1, verse 8, when they are leaving Moab, Naomi blesses her daughters-in-law and says this, may the Lord not stop showing his kindness. First of all, the kindness of God is exercised through us. How's he doing? The kindness of God is exercised through you and me. The Hebrew word for this word kindness, there is actually no English word that matches it. The Hebrew word for this kindness it means kind, loving, loyal, faithful, merciful, gracious, compassionate, all in one word. And this is a unique word to describe God. The indescribable love of God is that, and you and I are living in it. The love of God is patient. Naomi and Ruth are waiting. The love of God is patient. This story is one of waiting. If you think that you have done anything that could separate you from the love of God, you are believing a lie, because his love is so patient that is why we are yet alive today, because he does not want anyone to perish. His love is patient. His love protects. This entire chapter is about protection. Naomi trying to seeking protection for Ruth. Boaz seeking protection. If you think about this story, to think about the situation for Boaz and Ruth to both walk away from Ruth chapter 3 morally unscathed, because Boaz was going to protect Ruth. Love protects each other. God's love is like a fortress, and when we enter it, we are protected. I'm not going to take the time to read from Genesis 19. But this is the beginning of the Moabites. You know, there were 2 daughters, Lot and his 2 daughters, right? You remember? The 2 daughters are 2 women who are trying to preserve their family line. They get their dad Lot drunk and have sexual relations with him. And and the oldest one's son was called Moab, and he is the father of the Moabites. 2 women trying to protect their family line. I think the original readers of the book of Ruth would have understood some of these parallels. Now there are 2 women again protecting their family line. But what a difference. What an amazing difference. Every love story in our culture has this scene, somewhere has a scene of passionate love. And we get swept up in it, and we think that is love. What Boaz did on that threshing room floor is love. Love protects. the providence of God working through Naomi and Ruth. Lot's daughter certainly did not trust God with anything. Boaz was the one who stood up and said, no, Ruth, actually, no, we're not going to do this. God raise up Boazes and Ruths in this room right here, that we would stand up and show the world what love looks like. Love protects. Love stands even when it feels like doing everything else. What we see on the screen and in the movies is not love. And I pray that teenage boys, college boys, men, husbands, every man would stand up and start protecting and showing love. That's the love of God. I pray that teenage girls, college girls, and every woman in here would stand up and protect. The love of God protects. It does not take advantage of other people. The love of God protects. Pardon me. To do this. Most of us would have. Love of God is pure. It is not what we see in movies. And the love of God provides. When we enter the love of God, we will never be empty again. It provides for our needs. And we can wrap ourselves in that love, just like that garment that Ruth had spread over herself. And this, dear friends, is the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is the gospel that God, according again to David Platt, in his patient holiness, shelters us from his wrath. He saves us from our sin by sacrificing his Son. The love of God is patient, it protects, it is pure, it provides, and those of us who have chosen to live in it will exercise the same things: patience, protection, purity, and provision. God bless you all as you rise up in the field and live in the love of God.